Hey guys, Black Screen Conversations here. Today we're going to talk about um, the sentiments of being addicted to being depressed, being addicted to how you're feeling, um, and I guess a general overview of my perspective on psychological quote unquote disorders um, and the homeostasis that occurs within your body to maintain those things and whatnot. So let's get into it. So what do I mean by addicted to being depressed? I definitely don't mean what some of you might have seen in like Andrew Tate's like depression doesn't exist. You don't want to be depressed. You want to be depressed for attention. Yada yada yada. That's definitely not what I mean at all. Depression is real. As well as other psychological disorders like anxiety, whatever. Those are all real. Uh, they are evolutionary mechanisms in my mind. They're evolutionary mechanisms and responses to certain maybe traumatic events or a series of, I wouldn't even say trauma inducing, because it can just be it can be a response to the environment that you live in. Maybe a more depressive personality is fitting of the harsh environment, harsh reality that you live in. um, and so once we develop these things, I'm only going to talk about depression for now, and I'll go on to talk about anxiety and other things later. But once we develop a consistent depressive personality, um, fitting to the environment or the experiences that we are prone to, we tend to seek out things that confirm that. So we might listen to more depressing music, or when we hear a lot of good information, we may not process it as well because we 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 like to look at and we like to think of the depressing things that are out there, you know. So when we hear something good, or we hear something positive, uh, what we hear 10 times louder is that that thing is not positive because it's being undermined by the existing uh, depression or whatever of reality. And I find this to be interesting because it's I guess there's a question of why do we do this? Why do we do this? I think so. In developing these depressive personalities as a response, it makes us feel better in a way. The I think that I wouldn't say that depression, the mindset in which one has when depressed, is definitely not better than the mindset in which one has at a normal quote unquote sane mind. But in confirming uh, the quote unquote reality that we take on and having these depressive personalities, it can feel sort of good for us. It I don't know how to explain it any more than saying that it's it it it's like if someone were to give you a gift, uh, and you were quote unquote sane, and the feelings associated with that are similar to how you may feel if your depressive thoughts or your depressive ideologies on reality are confirmed. So it's in that way I say it's addicting. And I guess speaking about anxiety, I think it's similar in that with um, anxious people look for things to be anxious about. And I said that, I don't exactly mean that in how you may have interpreted it, but something that may not come off as uh, anxiety inducing or stressful in any situation very easily becomes something that a person with anxiety can become anxious about, um, even if it has the potential to induce some sort of stress within them. And in that response, it sort of serves as a way for them to, even though it looks ridiculous at some times, quote unquote ridiculous and crazy and and like out of control, it can within the anxious person, it can be a sort of uh, relax, and it can be beneficial in a way. And I think that attributing this to the brain, I feel this is so cool because the brain looks for ways to help us thrive uh, within our environment. So, in developing these depressive personalities and anxious personalities, with the amount of stress that we face in these different environments, we can find a way to still uh, maintain our functionality and not become dysfunctional, even though from an outsider, it may appear as if uh, these people are dysfunctional, but really, the brain is really uh, saving. I'm saying us, but I mean people afflicted by these things. And I feel like this is so important because there's a very strong stigma associated with being depressed or being anxious. And I feel like in taking on this perspective of it, we can see that this is not something to be uh, bogged down by. I would argue that the negative stigma associated with depression and the existing ideologies about people with depression and anxiety and other mental disorders, I would argue that those in fact do more damage than the disorders themselves, because we associate ourselves with those perceptions of the disorders, and we subconsciously or consciously fit ourselves into a box of what we can and can't do with our personality. We assign weaknesses within ourselves, and and essentially no strengths, because what strengths have we determined come from having a mental disorder? Even though I believe there are an incredible amount of strengths that come from having mental disorders, uh, we don't assign any in reality. It's seen as something negative, something detrimental. So, in taking this perspective and looking at it as an evolutionary response to an environment one is in, of course, one can look to if in changing environments, I would of course encourage to overcome these disorders if possible, quote unquote disorders. I hate calling them that, but overcome these afflictions, which is not even that much better. But regardless, I feel that it's important to see whether you attempt to overcome it or not. I feel that it's important to see how these are not things that are weighing you down or um, holding you back, but rather just neurological responses to help you function, maybe sometimes better in the environment that you live in, that you live in, or the make you neurologically function better to the things that are happening to you. So in a way, you could even perceive it as a sort of superpower. And I would encourage all of you afflicted by these um, mental ailments to uh, seek out the strengths that come with uh, your affliction, because a lot of times there's a lot of grit and there's a lot of strength associated with going through these things. One one stark perception of the world can allow you to uh, encourage other people and bring other people up, just because you know how really sad and how tragic the world can actually be. So, in knowing that you have the ability to then go on and make the world a better place, there are certain things that you can see that other people can't see. And I feel like this is definitely not a bad thing in its entirety. While it may not feel the best and it may not be portrayed in society as the best, I wouldn't count yourself out. Yeah, I hope this helped any of you out there. This one was more of a blabber session than actually than more substantive. So yeah, hope this helps. I'm probably gonna make another video tomorrow. Yeah, see you guys tomorrow, I guess.